shall teach them diligently, diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house,
Oh, it is so nice to have you join us again. We miss you all so much and hope that you've had a great week. Remember last week we learned about Jeroboam who refused to worship the Lord, and the Lord took away the blessing that he offered him? Well, Jeroboam corrupted the worship of the Lord, but Ahab replaced it entirely. No, wait, because before I go any further and give away too much information of what we're going to cover today, let's play a little guessing game. You can either write it down, think of the answer in your head, or even better, if there's someone near you, let them know what you think it is. So here's my first riddle. I go up when I'm used, but I'm not a balloon. I have a handle, but I'm not a car door. I get wet, and I'm used in the rain. What am I?
An umbrella.
That's right. Okay, so how about this one? This lives in a field. I think it eats grass. It gives us leather. And if you take something red, like a rag or like a big sheet and wave it, it'll charge you. What is it?
It's a bull. Oh, whoops, wrong bull.
Yeah.
It's that kind of bull.
That's right. Okay, so one more. It gets very, very hot, and you can roast a marshmallow on it. What is it?
Fire.
That's right. So here are just a few little things, 3 hints that will kind of see if you can find them in the lesson today. And so, Ms. Jessie, go ahead and start us off.
All right, children. Now, the book of Kings shows that God was just and right to exile Israel from their land. Israel kept rebelling even when God was patient and merciful to them. Remember, Jeroboam rejected God's promises and ignored God's warning. Now, this week, we're going to learn about King Ahab right here, who was even worse. He married a wicked Jezebel, and together they made Baal worship Israel's religion. Now, Baal worship was about riches and success, so God sent the prophet Elijah. Now, what was the purpose of prophets?
To warn people of their sin and turn back to God.
Yes, you're correct. That is just what he did. He warned them that the Lord was about to punish their idolatry by stopping the rain. Now, the Lord was purposeful in punishing them in this way because they thought Baal's superpower was controlling the rain. Now, Israel didn't have good irrigation like Egypt, so they needed this rain to actually grow their food. This was how the Lord was going to show them that he was the one true God. Now, before Elijah came to Israel, everything seemed to go well. But Ahab accused Elijah of causing all the trouble. But God's curse was actually the result of Ahab's idolatry.
Like Miss Jessie said, Ahab blamed Elijah for no rain, but Elijah called out Ahab's idol worship to Baal as the real cause for all of this trouble. So in order to show who was right, Elijah challenged Ahab to a contest that would prove who was God, Baal or the Lord. At the same time, Elijah challenged the Israelites to fully and completely worship the Lord. How long will it take you to make up your minds? Elijah asked. You see, God doesn't want us to kind of worship him or even mostly worship him. No, the Lord wants us to be totally devoted to worshiping him and only him. Back to the contest. The rules were simple. The prophets of Baal and Elijah would each take a bull, cut it into pieces, and place it on a pile of wood. Then they would call upon their God to light it on fire. Whichever God lights the pile of wood on fire is God. The prophets of Baal went first. From morning until noon, they prayed and called out, "Oh, Baal, answer us!" But there was no voice and no one answered. In their desperation, they cried and they hurt themselves, hoping to win sympathy of Baal and so that their request may be granted. The prophets of Baal did this for many more hours, But once again, no one answered and no one paid attention. How sad and how hopeless it must have been to realize that what you worship neither hears nor cares for you. And that is what Baal was. It was worthless and not God.
So as Mr. Michael just told us, what Baal's prophets are up to, they're scrambling in chaos all afternoon, trying to call out to their made-up God that couldn't hear them. But you know what Elijah was doing? He was calmly preparing to call upon the Lord. He fixed the altar of the Lord, which was torn down. And then he took 12 stones, which represented the 12 tribes of Israel, and he built an altar. He made a trench around the altar, and he arranged the wood. He cut the bull into pieces, and he laid it on top of the wood. And then he had the altar soaked with water all over the bull, the wood, and it all overflowed all over the altar. And then that trench that he built, they also filled it with water. Now, why in the world would Elijah do all that?
Elijah wanted to make it clear that the fire that was about to come was from God.
That's right. And so then after he did all this, you know what Elijah did? He did not do anything that the Baal prophets did. He didn't do any wild calling out. He didn't hurt himself, but instead he prayed by faith. He asked the Lord to answer him so that the people would know that the Lord alone is God and that he is the one that has turned their heart back again. And then once Elijah prayed, the Lord answered him right away with a lot of power. God sent down a fire that not only burnt up the offering, but it burned the wood, the stone, and all the water all around it. And so this was way beyond what the contest was about. Remember, the contest was just to get the bull burned, but this was way more. And when the people saw this, they fell on their faces and they said, "The Lord, he is God. The Lord, he is God." And Elijah told the people to capture the prophets of Baal and not to let any of them escape. And they were captured and killed.
So as Ms. Oila just told us, Elijah depended only on God for the fire. He prayed by faith, and the Lord answered him right away. Elijah proved that Lord was God. Because of this, the Lord could send rain upon Israel without them thinking it was from Baal. Elijah then told Ahab the good news. However, when Elijah went up to Mount Carmel to pray, the Lord didn't answer as quickly this time. Do you think Elijah gave up on God because he didn't see rain right away? No. Elijah continued to humbly depend on the Lord until a small cloud appeared and grew into a big storm. Because of Elijah's faithfulness, God answered his prayer. Not long after, the Lord empowered Elijah to run before Ahab's chariot 15 to 25 miles back to Jezreel. This showed God's power, but also showed Elijah's loyalty. Elijah acted like one of Ahab's servants. And this was an opportunity for Ahab to consider all he had seen and repent. If Ahab followed God's word, he would be a servant instead of an enemy of God. This is similar to the offer Jesus Christ made to us. He proved to us that he is Lord, the only God, by dying on the cross and rising from the dead. He shows his powers to us by his miracles and his victory over sin, as well as fulfillment of many prophecies. Now that we all know Jesus is Lord, we must follow him alone.
That was a great story. Now let's review what we just learned. How did God punish Israel for worshiping Baal?
The Lord caused a drought, which showed that Baal did not really have any power to send rain.
Now, why did Elijah propose this type of contest?
Elijah wanted Israel to stop limping between two decisions. They needed to see that the Lord alone is God, so that they would follow him alone.
And the last one, how did the Lord prove that he is the one true God?
While no answer came from Baal, the Lord answered by burning up the offering, the altar, and the water too. Then God proved his power again by sending lots of rain and by empowering Elijah to outrun Ahab's chariot.
Great job, everyone. Now may we follow him without reservations because he is the one true God. We had a wonderful time with you this week, and we'll see you again next week.
Diligently, to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, sit in your house. When you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise, and when you